The moment my brother announced that our grandmother's house had been sold, everyone at the dinner table started celebrating. Everyone except me. My mother raised her glass and smiled. To finally putting the past behind us. My brother Jason laughed. His wife Megan squeezed his hand. And my father looked at me like he was waiting for me to be grateful. Then Jason slid a folder across the table. "We already signed everything," he said. "The house is officially sold." I stared at the folder. Then I looked at my brother. "You sold Grandma's house?" Jason nodded. "Yeah, and honestly, it was the smartest thing we could have done. My grandmother's house wasn't just a building to me. It was where I had spent every summer of my childhood. Where Grandma Evelyn taught me how to bake apple pie. Where she sat beside me after my parents divorced and told me that sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones you have to protect yourself from. And after she died, she left me one final letter. A letter my family never knew existed." Jason leaned back in his chair. "Don't look so upset, Lily. You're getting your share." "My share?" "Of course." He smiled. "Grandma left the house to all of us." I stared at him. No, she didn't. The smile disappeared from his face. My mother suddenly put down her glass. "What did you just say?" I looked around the table. "She didn't leave the house to all of us." Jason laughed nervously. "Lily, we literally have the paperwork." "Then you should probably read it." The room went silent. Because what they didn't know was that 3 years earlier, while my family was busy arguing over Grandma's belongings, I had discovered something hidden inside an old kitchen cabinet. Something that changed everything. But before I tell you what was inside that cabinet, you need to understand why my family thought I was the least important person at that table. My name is Lily Carter. I'm 32 years old, and for most of my life, my family treated my older brother Jason like he could do no wrong. Jason was the golden child. He graduated from college with honors. He married Megan, who came from a wealthy family. He bought a beautiful house outside Boston. And eventually, he became a partner at a real estate investment company. My parents couldn't stop talking about him. Then there was me. I had dropped out of college during my second year. Not because I didn't care about school. Because my grandmother got sick. I moved back home and spent almost 2 years helping take care of her. Jason visited when it was convenient. I was there every morning. I cooked her meals. I drove her to appointments. I sat beside her during the nights when she couldn't sleep. And when Grandma died, Jason gave a speech about how much she had meant to him. I stood in the back and said nothing. After the funeral, my family started arguing about the house. Jason wanted to sell it. My mother agreed. My father said the money could be divided between the grandchildren. I didn't fight them. Because I didn't care about the money. I only wanted Grandma's old kitchen table. That was it. But 3 days after the funeral, while cleaning the kitchen, I noticed something strange. One of the cabinet doors wouldn't close. I pulled it open. Behind a stack of old recipe books was a small metal box. Inside was a key. And beneath the key was a handwritten note. It said, "Lily, if you're reading this, don't let them sell the house." My heart stopped. I read the note twice. Then I found a second envelope. Inside was a copy of a legal document. I didn't understand all of it. So the next morning, I took it to an attorney. That's when I learned the truth. My grandmother had transferred ownership of the house into a family trust years earlier. But there was something else. She had named me as the sole trustee. Not Jason. Not my parents. Me. The house couldn't simply be sold by my family. They didn't own it. I did. Or more accurately, I controlled the trust that legally owned it. The attorney told me something else. Grandma had also left instructions that the property should remain in the family unless I personally approved its sale. I could have told everyone immediately, but I didn't. Because I knew exactly what would happen. Jason would fight me. My parents would accuse me of stealing from the family. And everyone would suddenly remember how much they supposedly loved Grandma. So I kept quiet. I paid the property taxes. I paid for repairs. I restored the old porch. I even replaced the roof after a storm damaged it. Over 3 years, I quietly spent nearly $80,000 keeping Grandma's house alive. Nobody thanked me. Nobody even knew. And then, one Friday afternoon, I received a phone call from a real estate agent. He told me someone had submitted an offer on the house. I almost laughed. Who? He gave me the name. Jason Carter. My brother. He had apparently presented himself as the executor of Grandma's estate. And he was trying to sell the property for nearly $1.4 million. I asked the agent one question. Has anything been signed? Not yet. Good. I called my attorney. And that's when we discovered Jason had gone even further. He had already accepted a deposit from the buyer. He had told them the family had unanimously approved the sale. He hadn't asked me anything, because he didn't even know I was legally in control of the trust. I could have stopped everything immediately. Instead, I waited. I wanted to see how far Jason would go. 3 weeks later, he invited the entire family to dinner. That's where we were now. Jason had just announced that Grandma's house had been sold. My mother looked at me. Lily, this is good news. Is it? She frowned. You'll receive your portion. I looked at Jason. How much? He shrugged. Probably around $150,000. My stomach tightened. $150,000? That's your share. I laughed. Jason's face hardened. What? You sold a $1.4 million property and decided my share was $150,000? My father slammed his hand on the table. Enough, Lily. I looked at him. Do you know what the house is worth? Jason handled everything. Of course he did. Jason stood. Don't start acting jealous because I actually know how real estate works. I stared at him. You know what I find interesting? What? You never asked me to sign anything. Jason froze. My mother looked at him. Jason. He recovered quickly. Because Mom and Dad handled the family side. I shook my head. No, they didn't. My father stood. Lily, this is ridiculous. I reached into my bag and placed a document on the table. Jason looked at it. His face changed. My mother picked it up. What is this? I said quietly. Grandma's trust. Jason grabbed the paper. He read the first page. Then the second. Then he stopped. His face went completely pale. What did you do? I looked at him. I didn't do anything. You've been hiding this? I've been protecting it. Jason looked at my father. Dad? My father stared at the document. Then at me. Lily, are you saying you control the property? Yes. My mother whispered. Since when? 3 years ago. The room exploded. Jason accused me of manipulating Grandma. My mother said I had no right to keep secrets. My father called it betrayal. I listened to all of them. Then I said something that made everyone quiet. Where were all of you when I was paying for that house? Nobody answered. Where were you when the roof leaked? Silence. Where were you when the pipes froze? My mother's eyes dropped. And where were you when Grandma couldn't sleep at 3 a.m? Jason looked away. I took a breath. I was there. Then I pointed toward the folder Jason had brought. You didn't sell Grandma's house. Jason stared at me. You tried to. I opened my phone. I called the buyer yesterday. His eyes widened. You what? I explained the situation. My mother whispered. What did they say? I smiled. They asked one question. Jason's voice became shaky. What question? I looked directly at him. They asked why the person selling them the house wasn't the person listed on the deed. Nobody moved. Jason's face went white. The sale is canceled, I said. My father sat down slowly. Jason looked like someone had pulled the ground out from underneath him. Then he whispered. You ruined everything. I shook my head. No, Jason. I picked up Grandma's trust. You did. He started yelling. He said I had humiliated him. That his reputation at work could be destroyed. That the buyer might sue. That he had already spent money preparing for the sale. And then he said the one thing I will never forget. You were always the selfish one. I stared at him. Then I smiled sadly. Jason, I spent $80,000 protecting the house you tried to sell without permission. His mouth closed. I continued. You didn't even spend $8 on flowers for Grandma's grave. My mother started crying. For once, she didn't defend him. The dinner ended 10 minutes later. But the story didn't end there. Because the next morning, the buyer called me. His name was Daniel. He told me something unexpected. He had walked through Grandma's house before making the offer, and he'd noticed the old kitchen table, the same one I'd wanted after Grandma died. He asked if I planned to keep it. I told him yes. Then he said, "I don't think you should sell the house." I laughed. "I'm not planning to." He said something that changed my mind about everything. My wife and I run a nonprofit for young women aging out of foster care. We've been looking for a place to create a residential program. I went quiet. Grandma had spent her entire life helping people who had nowhere else to go. Suddenly, I knew what I wanted to do. I kept the house. And 6 months later, I turned it into something called Evelyn House. A safe place where young women could stay while learning job skills, managing money, and building independent lives. I donated the house. I funded the first 2 years. And I kept Grandma's kitchen exactly the way it had been. The old table stayed. The recipe book stayed. Even the little scratches on the cabinet door stayed. Jason eventually apologized. Not immediately. It took months. He lost the money he thought he was going to make from the sale, and he had to explain his actions to the buyer. But eventually, he came to Evelyn House. He stood on the porch for a long time before knocking. When I opened the door, he looked different. Less confident. More honest. "I was wrong," he said. I didn't answer. He continued. "I spent my whole life thinking I was the one Grandma was proud of." I looked at him. "She was proud of you." He looked surprised. "But she was proud of me too," I said. His eyes filled with tears. And for the first time, my brother understood something he'd never understood before. Love isn't a competition. There was never a winner. There never needed to be. Today, Evelyn House has helped dozens of young women start new lives. Sometimes I walk through Grandma's kitchen late at night after everyone has gone home. I run my fingers over that old cabinet. The same cabinet where I found the letter that changed everything. And I think about the sentence Grandma wrote. "Don't let them sell the house." She wasn't only talking about the building. I think she was telling me not to let my family sell the parts of me that mattered just because they didn't understand their value. For years, I believed being overlooked meant I wasn't important. I was wrong. Sometimes the quietest person in the family is carrying the biggest story. And sometimes the person everyone ignores is the one holding the key. I didn't destroy my family. I didn't take revenge. I simply stopped allowing them to decide what I was worth. And that turned out to be more powerful than revenge ever could have been.